Haiti's been trending heavy, and for good reason. Port-au-Prince turned into a full-on war zone, gangs teaming up, moving like a military unit, busting open prisons and flooding the streets with chaos. Thousands of inmates freed, cops overwhelmed, whole neighborhoods locked down. But Haiti's no stranger to chaos. From the start, it's been pain. Indigenous people wiped out, sugar plantations, brutal slavery. But Haiti flipped the script, rose up, fought back, and became the first Black-led republic, a beacon of freedom that helped spark revolutions across Latin America. That glory didn't last. Foreign invasions, corrupt leaders, coups, it all chipped away at the dream. In 2021, President Jovenel Moïse was assassinated in a wild plot involving Colombian ex-soldiers and shady insiders. Prime Minister Ariel Henry stepped in, but with no elections or progress, gangs saw their shot. By the time Henry fled to Puerto Rico, the streets were already lost. But this chaos didn't start yesterday. Back in the late 50s, Francois Papa Doc Duvalier tore up the old system and built his own death squad, the Tonton Macoute. Terror was their business. Torture, murder, disappearances. Fear ran so deep people thought they had voodoo powers. Even after the Duvaliers fell, the violence lived on. Old militia morphed into gangs, working for the rich, stacking cash through drugs, kidnappings, and extortion. Fast forward to December 2024, the Jolie Germine gang slaughtered over 200 people, mostly elderly, blamed for a gang leader's son's death. Bodies mutilated, burned, tossed into the sea. It was a massacre so brutal it shook even Haiti's hardest streets. Right now, there are an estimated 150 to 200 armed groups across the country. In Port-au-Prince alone, about 23 gangs are actively running the streets. But in this video, we're zeroing in on the most dangerous gangsters in Haiti today. Jimmy Sherzier, known as Barbecue. You'd see Jimmy Sherzier posted up in a bulletproof vest, always surrounded by men, sometimes even kids, toting assault rifles like it's just part of the uniform. In the streets of Haiti, he's got murals of himself in the poorest neighborhoods, painted up like he's some kind of Che Guevara. That's how deep the loyalty runs in the places he controls. To the people who follow him, Sherzier plays the role of a street savior, a kind of Robin Hood with an AK. In interviews, he talks about being God-fearing and fighting for the poor. He says he respects names like Fidel Castro, Malcolm X, and Thomas Sankara. Even Martin Luther King comes up, but he points out the difference. King didn't believe in guns. He does. That alone says a lot about how he sees himself and the war he says he's fighting. He told Vice that his movement is more than just gangs. It's a socio-political force born in the favelas, riding for the poor. But outside those zones he controls, the experts paint a darker picture. To them, the story of Baby Q, or as most people call him Barbecue, is way more twisted and dangerous. Born in the 70s, right in the middle of Baby Doc Duvalier's brutal reign, Sherzier came up hard. One of 8 kids, lost his father at 5, raised by a mother hustling fried chicken in the streets of Delmas. He says that's where the nickname Barbecue came from. But word on the street is the name stuck because of how he used to burn his enemies. Before he became Haiti's most feared gang leader, Sherzier was a cop. He worked with a special riot squad known for putting protesters in the ground. And even though Haiti's police force is supposed to protect and serve, Sherzier walked a whole other line. He openly admired Papa Doc Duvalier and ended up getting kicked out of the force in 2018 after being tied to a brutal massacre in La Saline. That massacre left 71 dead, 7 women sexually assaulted, and hundreds of homes torched. By 2020, the US had hit him with sanctions for human rights abuses. The UN followed in 2 years later, saying his actions helped shut Haiti down, literally. He'd been extorting businesses, blocking off fuel supplies, and pushing an already struggling country closer to collapse. Still, Sherzier swears he's done nothing wrong. Through his G9 gang coalition, he controls large parts of Port-au-Prince, neighborhoods and main roads alike. He's got enough power to choke the country, shutting off fuel lines, shutting down hospitals, closing schools, and somehow, he still manages to keep a grip on the image of a community leader. He hands out gifts on Mother's Day and helps poor families pay school fees. But even the people who recognize those gestures admit he's the same man fueling the crisis they're trapped in. People like Louis-Henri Mars, a peace worker who's met with him, call him a criminal businessman. Mars says Sherzier will sit with you, listen to your peace talk, nod like he's on board, But then he'll go right back to burning houses. Another expert compared him to a volcano, charismatic and smart, but always on the edge of erupting. No doubt he's got powerful connections too. People have long whispered about his ties to former President Jovenel Moise. And when Moise was assassinated in 2021, things only got worse. Fast forward to February 2024, he cranked the chaos up to max. He called for gangs to go all in on the government. The streets exploded. Police stations went up in flames. Airports shut down. Thousands of inmates busted out of prison. And Prime Minister Ariel Henry, he was stuck in Africa and couldn't even make it back. Right now, people on the ground say Barbecue is the most powerful man in Haiti. He's even floated his own peace plan, amnesty for all gang members, and a council of sages to run the country with people like him in charge. And with Henry out of the picture, that wild idea, it's starting to sound a little too real. Vel Innocent. When you see Vel Innocent on the FBI's 10 most wanted list, the man looks straight up wild, eyes wide like he's in the middle of some manic thought, mouth open like he just yelled something crazy. It's the kind of picture that screams gang boss, the type who's out here wrecking a whole country, talking like he's got some divine protection with $2 million on his head for kidnapping charges. But people who've actually met him say it's not that simple. In person, Innocent gives off a whole different energy. Yeah, the power's obvious. He's got armed men on standby, moving off nothing but his signals, but he's also calculated, almost calm. People say he'll greet you with a cooler full of sandwiches, sit you down, and get real philosophical in conversation. He's the type who can talk revolution while passing you a cold drink. He was born in 1986, and before the gang life, Innocent was actually moving as a political activist. Some experts believe he got into crime as a way to stack more power. According to what he told CNN, he once owned legit businesses, hotels, rental cars, but claimed they got sabotaged by people way higher up in the food chain. That's when things shifted. Innocent took over a gang called Sherzier. After Haiti's president, Jovenel Moise, was assassinated in 2021, Sherzier and other gangs started grabbing more territory and turning up the violence. The Haitian police even linked Innocent to the assassination. They said he met up with Joseph Jolie, an ex-senator and political rival, just days before the killing. John eventually got snatched up, extradited to the US, and pleaded guilty to helping plot the murder. He admitted to linking up with criminal groups and trying to position himself as Haiti's next prime minister, though the plan spun out of control. Under Innocent's leadership, Sherzier didn't just survive, they leveled up. They went after serious targets. They kidnapped a former head of the election council, a top shipping port director, and a big-name journalist. The gang made a strategic alliance with 400 Mawozo, another powerful crew. Together, they locked down the Croix des Bouquets area and split whatever dirty money came in. Things took a dark turn in October 2022 when Innocent's crew showed up at Jean and Marie Odette Franklin's house, guns blazing. In the chaos, Marie was shot and killed, and Jean was kidnapped and taken to a hidden location. Innocent even stepped in personally to handle the ransom talks. 3 weeks later, Jean was finally released after his family pulled together the money. Then came the police shootouts. In January 2023, 4 officers were killed in Métivier. A month later, another 4 people, including a cop, were murdered in Fort Jacques. That same day, the gang torched a police station in Pétionville. The cops hit back with Operation Tornado 1, chasing Sherzier into their strongholds in Torcelles and Pernier, but the gang kept pushing. In March, they stormed another police station, grabbed weapons and bulletproof vests, then set the place on fire. In April, they attacked the Jamaican consulate, shutting it down. By then, Sherzier wasn't just running the streets. They were spilling out of Port-au-Prince. Haiti's economy was falling apart and the government was barely holding on. One gang expert straight up called the economy dead and said these attacks showed just how far the gangs were spreading. But Sherzier doesn't just stick to the streets, they go after the rich too. In August 2023, they brought gunfire right into Vivi Mitchell, one of the wealthiest neighborhoods in Port-au-Prince, just steps away from where former Prime Minister Ariel Henry used to stay. This was Innocent sending a message. His mission was to take down the oligarchs he blamed for holding Haiti back. A month later, a Miami court charged Innocent with kidnapping Marie Odette Franklin and Jean Franklin. Then in November, the FBI added him to their 10 most wanted list. The US State Department even put up a $2 million reward for any info leading to his capture. Innocent is still the #1 target for Haitian police. His rap sheet is stacked: murder, sexual abuse, kidnapping, robbery, even car theft. U.S. prosecutors charged him for the kidnapping of the 17 missionaries in 2021 and again in 2022 for the Franklin case, where one of the victims was killed. On top of all that, both the UN and the U.S. slapped him with sanctions for recruiting child soldiers and committing brutal human rights abuses. Right now, U.S. authorities believe Innocent is hiding out in Tabare. That's really close to the U.S. Haitian embassy, less than a kilometer from the international airport. If they catch him and bring him to the States, he could be looking at life in prison or even the death penalty. Izzo burst onto YouTube in 2021, dropping rap videos laced with sharp political commentary. One of his early tracks, Sefoyo, took direct aim at the Haitian government, accusing them of arming gangs and using them like a personal militia. He wasn't just chasing clout, he was calling people out and shaking things up in a country already deep in crisis. His channel blew up almost overnight. Within months, he hit 100,000 subscribers, secured that shiny silver play button from YouTube, and started raking in ad money. Izzo wasn't shy about it either. He posted a photo with the award, calling himself part of the artist mafia. Thing is, that wasn't just internet bravado. Izzo wasn't some rapper trying to act tough. He was tough. He was the top dog of one of Haiti's deadliest gangs, Baz 5 Seconds, or the 5 Seconds gang. Now, 5 Seconds wasn't just any street crew. They were based in Village de Dieu, Village of God, a rough shanty town right outside Port-au-Prince. But don't let the name fool you. These dudes ran that area like a war zone. They controlled key substance and weapon routes, especially the RN2 highway that connects the capital to the south. That gave them power, not just street cred, but real financial muscle. Hijacking shipments, blocking aid, and running substances from South America, all part of their hustle. Murder, sexual violence, extortion, piracy, they had their hands in everything foul. And with the Haitian police stretched thin and Kenya's international support team short on resources, Izzo's crew often had better weapons and more cash than the people supposed to stop them. It wasn't long before people started pushing back online. A group called Men and Pill launched a petition to get Izzo's YouTube plaque revoked and his channel shut down. They said it was insane to reward a man whose music glorified violence and chaos, especially when he was actively recruiting young soldiers through his videos. One of his former kidnap victims even signed that petition. It gained traction fast, topping 20,000 signatures. By April 2023, YouTube finally pulled the plug on his channel, citing violations of their policies. But Izzo didn't back down. He got kicked off Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp after threatening to kill 30 people if anyone in Village de Dieu was harmed. He told his guys not to wait for orders, just act. And in October 2023, he proved he wasn't bluffing. After one of his men was killed without a trial, Izzo snatched 38 people from 2 minibuses and even stormed Haiti's Supreme Court. The message was loud and clear: mess with me and I'll bring chaos right to your doorstep. Social media kept feeding the fire. By 2024, Izzo was using TikTok like it was a recruitment center. He had racked up 227,000 followers before the platform finally banned him on April 5th. Before it got yanked, he was posting videos flaunting military-grade weapons, rapping about murdering cops, and bragging about substance use. In one clip, he straight up threatened to kill everybody who hated him while boasting about snorting coke. But here's where it gets even deeper. Some people say Izzo is even more dangerous than Sherzier. While Sherzier runs his mouth and tries to paint himself like a revolutionary, Izzo runs a cold, calculated business. He's got more men, more territory, and way more money, thanks to the substance game. While Sherzier blocks off ports and makes threats to the international media, Izzo's out here making strategic moves, winning gang turf wars, and even selling weapons to rival crews just to stack more paper. If international peacekeepers move in and lock down Varro, the port Sherzier depends on, Izzo won't flinch. He's got sea routes mapped out all over, giving him the kind of flexibility that makes him tough to stop and even tougher to predict. Then came the hammer from the US. In 2025, a criminal complaint dropped in DC naming Izzo, real name Johnson Andre, for the armed kidnapping of a US citizen back in March 2023. The victim was grabbed at gunpoint, taken to Village de Dieu, beaten, burned with hot plastic, and held for 9 days during ransom talks. Izo even showed up himself to talk money with the victim and their family. Once the cash and valuables were handed over, the victim was let go. But Izo didn't disappear. He's still believed to be hiding out in Village de Dieu. And in December 2023, the U.S. Treasury hit him with sanctions for gross human rights abuses under Executive Order 13818. If he ever gets caught and convicted, he's facing life behind bars. Guy Phillip's story reads like something straight out of a crime thriller, but it's all real. Born February 29, 1968, in the quiet southern town of Pestel, Haiti, he came up through the ranks in a way that had nothing quiet about it. He studied medicine in Puebla, Mexico, but the stethoscope didn't stick. He traded it in for a military uniform. By 1992, he was deep into army training in Ecuador, even learning tactics from U.S. Special Forces. The man was built for war, not wellness. When he returned to Haiti, the military he trained for got dismantled. President Jean-Bertrand Aristide had a score to settle with the armed forces. After all, they were the same people who kicked him out of office in 1991 and nearly killed him. So instead of letting that military experience go to waste, Phillip joined the Haitian National Police and quickly rose up, eventually becoming police chief in Cap-Haïtien, a major port city known for substance traffic. He kept close ties with his old military buddies from Ecuador, who were also sliding into power within Haiti's police ranks. That's when the whispers started. U.S. authorities were clocking Phillip for dabbling in the substance game. In 2000, the Haitian government gave him the boot, accusing him of plotting a police-led overthrow of Aristide. Phillip skipped town and resurfaced in Ecuador, then the Dominican Republic. But he didn't just lay low. He started building a rebel army, stacking it with bitter ex-soldiers who were still mad at Aristide for axing the military back in '95. This wasn't any ragtag group either. He called it the National Revolutionary Front for the Liberation and Reconstruction of Haiti. Among the ranks were men like Louis-Joseph Champlain, a former paramilitary boss tied to massacres, and Gilberto Dragon, a suspected drug connect who trained with Phillip. By early 2004, after a gang uprising sparked things off in Gonaives, Phillip's forces crossed the Dominican border and started scooping up territory. February 22nd, they took Cap-Haïtien. Days later, they were moving on Port-au-Prince with barely any pushback. On February 29th, Aristide dipped, flown out by the U.S. military to the Central African Republic. He later claimed he was kidnapped, but U.S. officials denied it. Either way, the takeover was done. With Aristide gone, Haiti tried to reset. The head of the Supreme Court stepped in as interim president, and elections were set for 2006. Phillip flipped his rebel group into a political party and ran for president, but barely made a dent, pulling less than 2% of the vote. What most didn't know at the time was that while he was campaigning, the U.S. had already charged him with substance trafficking, but they kept it under wraps. Between 2006 and 2007, Phillip kept ducking the law. There was even a major raid on his house in Les Cayes, backed by Haitian police, DEA agents, and helicopters. Still, he slipped away, reportedly watching the raid on TV from a nearby town. After that, he kept to his hometown area, flying under the radar. In 2015, he pulled off a comeback, winning a Senate seat in Grand Anse. That position would have given him political immunity, but 4 days before his swearing in, he slipped up. Right after doing a live radio interview on January 5th, 2017, Haitian anti-drug cops and the DEA swooped in and arrested him. He was sent to the U.S. immediately. There, the feds hit him with charges for smuggling coke into the States and washing the substance money clean. Phillip cut a deal. He pled guilty to money laundering. He admitted he took between $1.50 and $3.5 million in bribes from Colombian traffickers, promising police protection for their routes. He'd hide the money in small chunks, funnel it through banks in Ecuador and the U.S., and even bought up property in Miami. The judge gave him 9 years and hit him with a $1.5 million fine. But even locked up, Phillip tried to flip the script. He filed an appeal claiming innocence and wanted $100 million in damages. That got denied. After 6 years, he was sent back to Haiti in November 2023. Back home, he wasted no time jumping right back into the scene. He's still tied to a political party called Vel National and has a loyal following, but whether he's still connected to drug traffickers or simply aligning with gangs for power, it's unclear. One thing's certain though, if Haiti's leadership isn't careful, Guy Phillip might not just be a name from the past, he could be the next big problem about to explode. Jolie Germine, a dude who once called himself the king of one of the most feared gangs in Haiti, just got hit with 35 years in prison. We're talking about the 400 Mawozo gang. And yeah, that name loosely translates to 400 simpletons. But don't let that fool you. These boys weren't simple at all. They ran parts of Croix de Bouquet, a neighborhood on the edge of Port-au-Prince, and had control along a key road that connects Haiti to the Dominican Republic. Now, before 2019, most people hadn't even heard of 400 Mawozo, but by then they were already making noise, shootouts, turf wars, the whole nine. Truth is, the gang had been around since 2016, and by 2018, they were leveling up fast. Experts started paying attention, and some of them even said 400 Mawozo was the one crew that had everybody else shook. Yeah, other gangs in Haiti got guns, political ties, and shady businesses, but what made Mawozo different was how they moved: smarter, slicker, and bolder. Around 2020, they leaned into something they called express kidnappings. Instead of targeting the rich, they'd snatch regular folks, people riding public transport or walking along main roads. They'd grab you, hold you for a few days, and let you go after your people scrape together some quick cash. Small ransom, quick turnaround, and they'd do it over and over again. Quantity over size. But things got really dark when the gang started going after Americans. Since at least January 2020, they were dragging U.S. citizens out of their cars at gunpoint and locking them down while their families tried to pay up. The U.S. government showed receipts in court. Ransom money was wired through legit services like MoneyGram and Western Union, then flipped into more firepower for the gang. Then came fall 2021, the wildest moment of all. 400 Mawozo claimed they kidnapped 16 Americans, including 5 kids and 1 Canadian. These were missionaries, just visiting an orphanage. The gang wanted $1 million each. And even though Jolie Germine was already locked up in a Haitian prison, the man was still calling the plays. He was running the gang business behind bars, using contraband cell phones like it was nothing. Authorities say while he was chilling in his cell, Germine was guiding the crew that kidnapped the missionaries, all 17 of them. But here's the part that sounds like it's straight out of a movie. After 2 months in captivity, 12 of those missionaries pulled off a wild escape. In the middle of the night, they slipped away from their captors and trekked miles through rough terrain, following the stars, carrying a baby and kids with them. Eventually, they got picked up by the U.S. Coast Guard and flown to safety in Florida. While all of that was happening, Germine wasn't just fixated on kidnappings. He was also making plans with people in the U.S., including his ex-girlfriend Eliane de Tunis and 2 others in Florida, to purchase guns and smuggle them back to Haiti. He provided the shopping list from prison. They went to stores in Florida, lied on the paperwork, and managed to buy at least 24 rifles, handguns, and even a shotgun, all while pretending the weapons were for personal use. Tunis, who was living in Pompano Beach, tried smuggling the weapons into Haiti in containers packed with food, clothes, and even Gatorade to throw off the scent. The first shipment made it, but when she tried again in October, the FBI was onto them. They seized the weapons before they left the country. By 2022, the U.S. sent Germine back to Haiti. After 2 weeks of trial, with 24 witnesses and a mountain of evidence, he saw the writing on the wall and pled guilty. So now, the self-proclaimed gang king from Croix de Bouquet is officially serving a 35-year sentence for smuggling guns, laundering ransom money, and pulling the strings behind one of the most dangerous crews Haiti has ever seen. Appreciate you watching. If you liked it, hit that like button and make sure to subscribe for more.